It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm in my drop top, cruising the streets. Pew, 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 pew. I got a real pretty, pretty little thing that's waiting on me. I pulled up, anticipating good love. Don't keep me waiting. I got plans to put my hands in places I've never seen, girl. You know what I mean?
You did great, man. That's awesome. That's one of the best
I
ones.
said so.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Honestly, everybody that's listening, they totally appreciate when a guest kind of gets out of their zone and just does it, just drop it. And I love that guests do it. So thank you very much for doing that, for opening the show that way.
When you email me and you're like, "Oh, by the way,
By the way,
yeah, by the way," I was like, "Why the fuck did I agree to this?"
nah, you agreed to it. So now we just broke the ice, and
Yeah, I
so
love it.
glad to meet you or web meet you or what have
Yeah.
you. You're out of West. You're out in Vancouver, right?
I'm in Vancouver, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. So it's been a while since I've been out there, but we've interviewed a few people from out west and all over Canada and all over the world as well too. Actually, we just had someone recently from Bali as well, which Bali's going to come up in our conversation.
Awesome.
Nikki Collin, and he's great. He does a lot of breath work and mental health and anxiety and stuff like that out there in Bali. So, no, it's just I want to welcome you to the show. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. You're a busy guy, so you got a lot going on. So I totally appreciate your time that you're going to be on the show, and we'll try to get to as much as we possibly can. And you've got such a fascinating story, like a really fascinating story with complete, like, huge positive things that are going on. And I always tell everybody that's listening, you can't have enough of this. You can't have enough of this positive happiness, like finding certain just things in life, just being back to like what you're doing, in my opinion, and we'll get into it, just being a human being. You know what I mean? Just like honestly, just being true to what we really are and who we are. So I mean, we're gonna talk a lot of stuff that you've been through and what you're doing currently, and you're all over the place, life coaching and charities and just helping people over and over. And it's not just helping people online; it's helping people from all over the world. And you're literally going to these places and speaking to these people in person and meeting them. So it's like amazing. Just lots of respect here, Aaron. Just honestly, man. So I want to share everybody. So Aren Bahia is here from Ink Pray Love. You can find him on the website, which is his name is Aren Bahia, and spelled BAHIA.com. On the website, you'll see all the links there, but definitely go to his IG, which is ink_pray_love. And then you get to his YouTube channel as well, which you've got your own podcast. You're interviewing some amazing people, and some of the information that they're sharing is absolutely mind-blowing, which is great to hear and to see it. So, and now you're on our show. You're on TC. You're going to talk to a lot of contractors and tradespeople and homeowners, and this has been working for us really well because we recently discovered that there's more to just swinging the hammer. There's like the person who's swinging the hammer, and there's a lot going on in that person's life. And so that's why we've been active about reaching out to people like you about getting on the show. So that's my spiel. I just want to do one more shout out. Someone forced me to wear a polo shirt today. Manny's not really a polo shirt guy, but I'm wearing iGuide's polo shirt. So I want to thank you and not thank you for putting me in a polo shirt, because I'm not a polo shirt guy. I don't golf. I don't do any of that stuff, but I am wearing the iGuide polo shirt. Okay. So that's it. That's it. Now, Aaron, over to you. Where do you want to begin this show?
Well, firstly, like a big shout out to the people in trades. Like I did a few different trades on my weird, wild journey, and I remember my first trade I was did commercial roofing at
Oh, that's
16
fun.
years old. But I was the guy who carried the hot tar up the ladders and burning my hands, and it was a crazy time. And that's when I really realized I was like, this is hard. This is what hard work really is.
Yeah.
And I was a chubby teenager in East Vancouver, rough area. My school was very well known for violence and drug trade, getting recruited into street gangs. It was a rough school. And I was a chubby kid and I was getting bullied a lot. And then I went through this growth spurt and lost 20 pounds during one summer of commercial industrial like roofing. And I came back and I was like, okay, I could finally get girls, and that was like a cool thing. And it was a big shift. And I remember working like 15-hour days, like 2 weeks in a row, and my paycheck came around, and this is 2005 or 2004 or something like that, and my paycheck was like $512, and I was like, that's a lot of money for like
Those are
that
big
kid.
numbers. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
big
but you
number.
look at
I
it now,
know.
and you're like, and I remember that was the first time I was like, taxes suck. And it was like the first time I was like, I don't like this taxes
As
thing.
soon
What do
as
you
you
mean?
make it, you understand how it's taken from you.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
was the beginning of it, right? And I really didn't like that. And so a lot of my friends were, getting involved in the drug trade. I got sucked into it at a young age because I was like, taxes suck. And I didn't know any better at that age, what validation and power and ego. I didn't know any better how to be true to myself. So I got sucked into the drug trade, and it was crazy and fun, but also just it was eating at me. I wasn't doing the right things, and so I was in and out because I did my first year plumbing, and I was trying to become a plumber so I could become a firefighter, and that was going to be like my first a 12-hour drinking and driving suspension for being hungover because I was 18 years old, and they stopped me in the morning for speeding, and I smelled like alcohol, but I went to a party the night before. I was just going to work the next morning, and the officer was like, "Well, you blew 0.001." So I was like, but at
Just
18,
okay.
that's illegal. So he suspended my license, and I couldn't be a firefighter anymore. And I remember like crying to this police officer, like, please, like, I can't be a firefighter if you give me this. He's like, well, you should have thought of that before you drank and drive. I'm like, I drank last night. He's like, doesn't matter. And so I remember being heartbroken, and then I was like, back into the drug trade. It was like, fuck the police. Like, it was really
Yeah, yeah.
breaking that age, right? And obviously I didn't handle that very well. But then I was like, okay, maybe not dealing drugs, maybe electrical. And so I did my first year electrical, and got into that for a little while. And then again, the money wasn't there. I was impatient. I was young. I was probably making 15, 16 bucks an hour, whereas selling pot, I was making more. I made some Toronto connections, and that's why I was coming out to Toronto and sending weed from Vancouver to Toronto, and that was starting to scale well. And I was like seeing more money than I had ever seen as a
Yeah.
little bratty kid.
Yeah.
And then I started buying condos and renovating them with my own hands and selling them. And that's where I was like, cool, trades where building stuff with my own hands was always the most gratifying thing, because I get to see a finished product and be like, I built that. Like, I did that. I got to pick out the tiles. I got to, pick out the color scheme and then build it. And that was what I really loved about trades. And it's just honest work. And as I got deeper and deeper into the dope game and made, nationwide connections and things were scaling, it really was eating at me. This wasn't what I wanted to do. I wasn't doing something positive. I wasn't living out my full potential. I was dealing with, intense people. And, by the time Mexicans came into the picture and I'm now in Cabo meeting cartel members, I was like, this is fucked.
This
I
is
didn't want
getting
to
a
do.
little risky now.
Yeah. I like my head on my shoulders. I don't want that not to be the case.
Can I ask you, Aaron, like, okay, was it when you were dealing with, I guess, just illegal activities, was it just primarily the monetary? Was it just the
Yeah.
money? Yeah, it was just that, right? Like you saw the opportunity there. But was it also maybe just, were there some decent people in there or not?
Oh yeah, I had really good business ethics and
Yeah,
good
that's where I
morals.
was going with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never stole from anyone, and that's why I still kept my head on my shoulders. And it was always important for me to have good customer service, because I
Yeah.
was just like, I'd always make things right, and that's why people loved working with me and would trust me with a lot, because I would always just make sure I'd make things right and not mess around. And that's why learning that there helped me in business so much more, like in the rest of life. I learned key things from the dope game, of like, stand by your word, follow up, make sure things are proper, make the connection, bridge a connection, nurture the connection. Like, that was really important for me, and I learned it, how to connect and build trust, in a high pressure situation, as well as my intuition on people really grew there, where I had to know really quickly if I trust someone or not. And there was brilliant life skills. And I think so many people, especially a lot of my friends in trades, dabbled, and then
Of
they then
course.
they
Yeah.
then you make honest money, and you're like, well, I can't judge anybody who's been in it, or been out or in it right now. All I could say is, in my personal experience, was like, getting out and doing something that made me proud and made my parents proud was worth more than just that all that cash coming in. And then eventually I got good at doing all these other things and launching businesses and tattoo shops and moving to Bali. It turned out to be obviously a huge net positive, but it had to crash and burn before then. I had to absolutely hit some serious rock bottoms. I was doing tons of opiate painkillers, recreationally, but also I was killing pain of not doing something I was proud of. I wasn't happy with what I was doing, and I didn't know then that if you're just not in the right position, or you're just not happy with your life, you're going to find ways to numb that out,
Yeah.
and find ways to really just try to make it okay so you don't think about not doing what you're not doing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that's where I got into this cycle of addiction. And I went really deep into that, and then saved my own life after doing a plant medicine ceremony. And this iboga was what I did. Ibogaine. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever heard of it.
No, no, no.
Oh man, it's like the African plant ayahuasca. It's like the African ayahuasca, but ayahuasca is kind of like your grandmother, telling you how the universe works. This is like your stern father telling you how much of a fuck up you are over and over again. It's
Wow.
super intense, but
Okay.
it's scary. Like I was like, oh, it's not easier than withdrawals, but it helped me see that I was accountable for my actions and that it wasn't my neighborhood's fault. It wasn't my dad's fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault, but mine for making these choices. And that accountability within myself obviously hurts when you first hear it. Your ego gets popped, but I needed that to make a change. And so those rock bottom moments of like, well, you did this. That's like, those are the come to God moments you need to shift, right? I needed it. So as I was shivering and finishing this plant medicine ceremony, and they're like, they would you take the medicine at night. So all day you'd sit around. They're like, well, you can watch movies, but they have to be positive movies. And after I got through all the positive happiness documentaries, the last positive thing I could watch was it was what changed my life massively. It was Eat, Pray, Love. And
Okay.
that's why my Instagram's Ink Pray Love, because I saw Eat, Pray, Love. I saw her in the Bali scene with the ceremony and the prayers and the offerings. And I was like, oh my God, whatever that is, I need it. And I ended up, I booked a flight. I ended up in Bali on my 25th birthday alone. Diamond drug dealer earrings, Louis Vuitton shirt, cheesy as fuck, man purse, all the full shebang. And I rocked up to this place, Yoga Barn, in Ubud, Bali, the spiritual capital of the island, the yoga capital, and it was like, okay, let's try yoga. And I was kickboxing a lot, for 6 years. I was teaching kickboxing. I got my black belt, and that was a big part of my life. And then now I was like, well, let's try yoga. Let's try something a bit different. And I learned that actually this hard world I was living before of, toxic masculinity and just trying to be the king of the jungle, actually softening was the biggest strength that I ever learned. Was, okay, can I be in a different space and act differently? And it showed me that there was a whole different world for me available there. And I liked myself so much better when I didn't have to be this facade of who I was in my hometown. And it was so liberating. And that's why Ink Pray Love is my Instagram,
Yeah.
because that was a pivotal moment that changed my life.
Were you on your own? Like, was it just you, or were there other forces, other people that are around you that were dropping? Your life's going down a really wrong path here, man. Like something's going on here. You need to like. Did you have anybody in your life kind of just paying attention?
That was one thing. It was like I really realized no one's gonna come and save me. And no one was. I was always the one who took care of everybody. I was always the one that kind of like brought people together, led the pack, that kind of stuff. And so no one was really like, hey man, you should smarten up. They're just like, he has it. Even I was a very functioning addict, right? So I was still running a network. I was still, like doing well financially, but spiritually and my health, I was just not doing good. And when I look at those old photos, I didn't look that great. I had bad acne. I was just sunken eyes. I was down to 163 pounds at my lowest, where I walk around now at 205. So it's like,
Wow, no, that's a huge difference.
that's a big difference,
How old
right?
are you
So
at that time, Aaron? Like what was the age group that you were?
I started in the drug trade at like 17, 18, and I got out 25, 26. 26. I
Wow, yes.
remember it was a couple year transition when I knew I wanted to get out, but it was not easy. It's a big part of my identity at that time. And there was a lot of money and power and validation tied to that. And I was like, well, who am I going to be without this?
Does the
But that,
past ever rear its head?
um, I mean, only in the sense that now I'm back in Vancouver, and it was triggering to be back. And it's, you're back in the beast, and it's an expensive city. And so many people are dabbling in it that are around me, and it's just like, well, I had to really see that. And what really helped was getting space from it and getting enough time and energy building myself up as a new human to know that like I would never want to go back. And like I came back to Vancouver, and there's opportunities, I could connect people. I still have friends that are in it, and I just was really needing to draw the line of like, well, what I love doing now is not that. So do what you love doing. And that was a big thing for me. Was it's not about the money. I did enough things for that were just for money to realize that it's not worth it. And doing something that you're happy and love doing, and that helps people, that was the big light switch moment for me. Was I started really wanting to devote my life to service when I got out of the game and got clean. And that was working. Like that was the first time I actually felt good about what I was doing. And I was like, oh, okay, being a good human's nice. Like actually, like,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how. I was like, I gotta do good human things, and just was like, well, what does a good human do? And I was like, well, he's kind to people. He's gonna commit to charity work. You know, he's gonna bring people together. He's gonna be helpful, useful. And I literally listed it out and re-engineered my life by making a plan out of this and literally going, okay, what's my end goal here? I'm like, I want to be a successful Bali businessman. I wanted to own like a chain of hotels. That's what I was thinking was going to happen. So I ended up with an Airbnb bed and breakfast. That was my first business. I cashed out, sold my condos in Vancouver, uh, leased this big villa, and I was subletting the rooms. And within about 3 months, I realized I don't really care about beds or breakfasts. This isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. You know, it's like,
This is
there's
when
like
you
French
first
people.
got to Bali and you were entering the yoga barn. Like you were actually, this is what you were working on, thinking about.
Well, actually, when I first got to Yoga Barn, I did a yoga teacher training, totally failed it. I was still partying. I was, still difficult to get, there wasn't opiates around. So that was great, but I still was still a very, very, unstable.
Yeah.
And so I did 2 months there and realized, great, I could be someone else, but then I still had to go back to Vancouver and get out of the game and sell all my stuff. And so that was 6 months to a year, about 6 months it took me to go back home after that first Bali trip. And that was the hardest 6 months of my life. Things were really intense getting out. And that's where it's like, if the universe, you're telling the universe, I'm going to change, I'm going to do something else, the universe will test you. You'll meet resistance. And it's like, well, how bad do you really want it? And it's going to showcase how bad you really want it. And you have to want it more than the resistance. And so I had to overcome so many challenges, like friends getting kidnapped and shot, or me going deeper into addiction and, getting robbed, and all sorts of things that were really intense and harrowing, and, problems with the development business. And it was just like, I'm still committing to getting out. I'm still committing to getting out. I'm going to do it. And when I actually did it and then moved back to Bali and did the second yoga teacher training, could show up to this teacher like, yo, I'm gonna actually try this time. And I remember driving, in the morning with the rice paddies, the sun coming up, going to the gym, and listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers under the bridge, and having this moment with the sunrise, like, okay, you did it. Like you actually made it out. Like, good job. And that was the first moment I actually felt like this pure joy. Like, wow, you risked it on yourself and you showed up for yourself and you did the thing. That was a moment that actually felt actual pride. And that felt really good. When I got my first Mercedes when I was, 23 or something, I felt like false pride. I was like, yeah, I'm a big shot,
Purchased.
but
It's purchased
you
pride.
know,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah, I
exactly.
know. It's not real,
Uh,
and it could be taken away at a moment's glance, right?
And you're always stressing about it.
Yeah,
It
you're
was
always
like, it
worried
was
about
wild.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to. I've got a bunch of questions and just talking points that I want to bring up, Aaron. And I want first people to understand. I almost want to get to the end of the movie before we get to
Yeah,
ending
yeah,
to the
yeah.
start of the movie. I want you to
Mhm.
share with people all the charities that you're working with and what you're doing around the world, and what you offer and what you're planning. I want them to know that, so we could just plant those right
Yeah,
now in the
yeah.
show and get them done. And then I want to get into other things that I want to talk about with you. So if you could share those,
Yeah,
that'd
of
be
course.
amazing.
Since I got out, I launched 8 businesses in 8 years. The first one was actually, just I was leading into that, was the bed and breakfast wasn't very fun, but I made friends with a local Balinese tattoo family and we got really close. So we started tattooing out of the dining room of the bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
and we rebranded as Airbnb Bed and Breakfast Tattoo Shop. And that started making way more money than the bed and breakfast. And I realized the tattoo business is fun. People are happy to come see you. They're happy to get their tattoos, and then they leave stoked. It's not like you're the dentist or something. They're just like, they love it. And so I really saw that was a better go. So I started going into meditation retreats. And my first one, I had the idea to open up my own first tattoo shop. I had the connections, like I had the artists, I could do the marketing. It was like, oh, that was a big, good idea. But I only got that idea after I forgave a lot of people who really, really fucked me over in the dope game. And it was weighing on me. But I went through a forgiveness meditation. And as I gave room in my in my energy, my aura, everything around me to forgive people, there was a room for creativity and opportunities that was on the other end. And that's when things like skyrocketed, where I was like, my first shop was instantly the most successful shop in the city. We funded a school for mentally disabled Balinese children that we still do today, and that was the first charity work. I realized in that meditation retreat, meditating on compassion. It was introduction to Buddhism retreat in the Himalayas in India. And I really realized if I was able to do business again, but there was a karmic impact to it, that it wasn't just about making money, but there was something outside of that. I was like, that's going to be fulfilling. Like that's going to work.
Yeah.
That's going to feel good. So I found this school for mentally disabled Balinese kids. And as soon as I walked in, it was a yes. My intuition was like, this place is a yes. These kids need your help. And this is a yes. And as we partnered with them and the world found out about it, or our customers found out about it, they're like, why wouldn't we support the one that helps these kids rather than the one that doesn't? So it was, people want to help people, but they're just lazy. Like they don't know exactly how, right? So if you have a business and you're doing some good, people will choose you over the other people so they can help do good. And that really clicked for me. So after the first tattoo shop, I opened my second one, Karma House, and we help women that are at like that have been affected by human trafficking. We've been helping kids get their first beds to sleep on. And so Karma House was really rooted in, and still is rooted in, charity work. And from then we opened up Yogi Lab. It's an online personal development company that helps people meditate for free every month. About 100,000 people come together every month to meditate. So that's a free course coming out on Yogi Lab. And then it went into having my coaching practice. And that was really fun because I was able to help people start businesses or like shift and become brands in themselves and help people, or scale up their businesses, brand development, brand launching, but also helping people have spiritual practices so they can be a centered entrepreneur. Because these practices help me go from like a crazy drug addicted drug dealer to being able to launch businesses and be happy and stable while you're doing it. So they really changed my life, and I'm able to implement those in people's lives while we help with their branding and goal setting and practical. So it's like spiritual and practical. And that's been actually what I love doing now. That's my favorite thing now. And then I have a content creation studio in Bali. And then I came to Vancouver after I had a really bad motorcycle accident while I was in Bali. I broke both my legs, my pelvis, my elbow, my Achilles, my bladder. I was in a wheelchair for 3.5 months. I was on 2 crutches for
Ouch.
8 months. I was handicapped for more than a
At
year.
that point, that list is like, what didn't you break? That's
Right?
shorter, right?
Oh man, it
Ouch,
was
man.
crazy. It's I'm glad it happened, but I'd never want to do that again.
Yeah.
But because it really showed me what's important in life, and it really showed me, how lucky we are to be alive, and how actually those years spent rebuilding my life and actually being of service and building community around me, how many people actually loved me for me and showed up to come and help me when I was handicapped and took care of me. And, like my friends had to pull me off a toilet to put me back in my wheelchair. My friends had to pick me up and put me in bed. I was like super handicapped for a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And that was crazy just to feel for your ego. You're like, I'm supposed to be a boss, and now I'm a baby. I remember and the great thing about all that was I maintained a sense of humor through it all, because it was cosmically funny. Like there was so many just funny moments in it. And I just remember, like, I remember when I had to get the nurses when I was first in the accident to change my diaper. Like I had broke my pelvis, so I couldn't move, right? And
Can't do
so
anything.
that wasn't a fun experience to, have to use the toilet per se. And I just remember being changed by a group of nurses and just laughing, like, this is my life right now. Like, that's pretty funny. Like, that's pretty funny. And like, so many funny moments of that. Like, I get it. I get the lesson I was supposed to learn out of this. I understand. And I think, if anybody's going through some hard times listening, if you're able to see what the higher lesson is out of it and you're able to find the humor in it, it makes the whole situation better. It really helps you to take a look out of it from being a victim mindset and going into, okay, why did this happen? What can I take out of it to level me up? And where are there some funny things that I can still have a sense of humor about this? Because people would come visit me. I wasn't going to just be sitting there bitching about it. I was making them laugh, and that was way easier for me. I know humor is like one of my coping mechanisms, right? But that was a way to make it easier.
Is it fair to say, Aaron, that I mean, I've been down paths, you've been down paths, and a lot of people go down a lot of stuff, and it just feels like all this negative, all this hard things that happen in our lives, they almost seem like there's never an ending to it. It just seems like it's a constant. You wake up in the morning, it's there. You go to sleep, it's there. And I know, and I love that you have a coping mechanism where it's about the humor, and I would be doing the exact same thing. It's just you can't nothing but laugh about it. Like you have to laugh about it. Like this is like I remember, you're a bigger boy when you're younger, and you could do so much, and you could pull the day that you realize that you're bigger than your dad. Physically
Mm-hmm.
and mentally, you're bigger than the person who raised you, right?
Yeah.
And and all of a sudden you got to realize that you're not that big anymore. You know what I mean? We're all exactly the same. But I mean, were there times that you either looked internally and thought to yourself that this is really hard? Like this is
Oh,
really, really extremely hard. And I don't know if I can get to that point where I'm past this.
man, there was so many like heartbreaking setbacks in that handicap stage. Like I remember, so they didn't have the right piece of equipment to put in my. I broke my tibia, the weight bearing bone in my right shin, and they're supposed to put a nail down the middle of your tibia so it'll support it. But they didn't have my size because I'm too big. I'm bigger than most Indonesian people, right? So this
Yeah.
happened in Bali, not the place you want to get surgeries. Do not do not get surgeries in the third world country. But so they put a pin on the outside and screwed it to my tibia, but it wasn't strong enough, so it snapped when I started practicing walking again about 4 months in. And that's when they're like, oh, it'll be 8 more months that you'll be, it's going to be 8 more months till you can walk again. And so to hear 8 more months, and maybe your right leg will be a little shorter than your left leg. And it's like to hear that, you're like, no, like
Wow.
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So it was so intense to hear that. And I just remember as the doctor left the hospital room and I was by myself and I just needed to have a moment. Like I just needed to like really have a moment. And this is where I learned with some of my spiritual teachers. They're like, yeah, if you're gonna be mad, be good at being mad. Like if you're gonna have a cry, have a good cry. If you're gonna have a little freak out, a little meltdown, have a good one.
Just
Really,
let it
really go
go.
for it.
Yeah.
Feel your fucking feelings. Like really feel them, and then get your shit together, and make a plan and follow it. Like that's it. Like let it go after that moment. So if you're gonna be resentful, you're gonna be mad, you're gonna be this, do it. Do it once well. And then okay, now act. Like choose action, choose a path and choose a direction that's going to be on your path to healing. So I had to do that multiple times. That were there's some setbacks where I was like, man, this is really hard. And I'm supposed to be this like life coach, business coach, all this spiritual practices, but I'm a baby right now, and it's hard. And so I had a couple days like that, and then I just needed to know, okay, it's going to be like a 2 year recovery, and I'm just completing that 2 years. I'm still obviously going to be banged up a bit, walk a little funny, but I just was squatting right now in the gym before this, so I made a good recovery, thank God. Um, but I'll still be a bit handicapped. And so the thing was, like, I needed to not look at when's the next time I'll be able to be boxing again. At that stage, while I'm in this wheelchair, I needed to be okay. When am I going to be able to take a shower alone? That was my goal. So making micro goals when you have a big goal that seems like I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. It's like don't worry about it. When can you do the smallest next
Yeah.
step that you can celebrate?
Yeah.
And that changed my life. It really was important because all to walk anywhere, if you're gonna walk to go get you a glass of water, you're gonna have to take some steps, but you have to start with that first step. So focus on that first step and do it well, and don't worry about that full journey. It's like just do the smallest thing and do it well. And that was a big shift for me, and that helped that whole thing be a bit easier.
So I mean, Aaron, you've spoken to all kinds of people, young and old, and I guess I want to just ask you like a direct question of what are we really want in life? Like
What do we really want?
what is it that you hear from, because as a child it's a different idea of what they want. From an elderly
Mm-hmm.
person, it's a different idea. And I get the sense that from people from North America and people from Europe and people from South America, it's like we have different ideas of what we really want in life. But what is the core thing that we really want in life? Since 1991, Mississauga Hardware Centers, MHCI, or Saga Tools as the cool kids call it, has been a trusted name in the construction supply industry. Serving the Greater Toronto Area as a family-founded, owned, and operated company, they take pride in their reputation as one of the most respected construction supply providers in the GTA. At MHCI, they stand out for their commitment to fast and efficient service. Their team of friendly, courteous, and knowledgeable staff is available to assist you with any questions you may have. They understand the importance of product knowledge and strive to provide an unsurpassed level of expertise to their valued customers. They take pride in their ability to purchase large volumes of products directly from manufacturers worldwide. This enables them to pass on substantial savings to their customers. Whether you're embarking on a do-it-yourself project, constructing a multi-million-dollar building, or involved in city infrastructure development, their products and prices remain highly competitive within the industry. Order online at www.mississaugahardware.com, or better yet, go and visit them in person and always check out what's happening on their social at Mississauga Hardware Center with CENTRE.
I mean, I think we want love. I think we want I think we want to be seen, heard. I think we want to be loved. I think we want to love other people, and I think we want to be loved for who we are, and like really be somebody that we want to be with our good, bad, and ugly. All the us in totality. Can somebody love us for all of us, and can our friends love us for all of us? Can we be really us and not this mask? And I was wearing that mask in the drug trade. Even when I first went into the spiritual practices, there was a spiritual mask, and I did the mask, I did the beard and the mala beads and all that shit, and then I came back to me, a mix of all of the things where I'm like, I can be all these things. Will someone love me for this, like the good, the bad, and the ugly? And I think that's what we really want. And I think truly in us, we want to make an impact. Like we want to contribute to the tribe. We're tribal people, right? We want status in the tribe. We want to know our place in the tribe. We want to be useful to the tribe, and we want to have a family. Like we want people around us that we love and that care about us. So those are like the things that actually I learned made a complete life was, are you useful? Like, are you useful, and do people love you? And that's what I really needed to ground down on, because my previous lifestyle, I don't think I mean, I was good at what I did, but I don't think I was loved for the right reasons. It was a facade. It was because I had nice shit. And it
Yeah,
wasn't
no.
it wasn't because I was able to make an impact positively in people's lives, where they're around me and they feel lit up. And that's important.
Is it really hard to see? Like, I know a lot of people, especially in today's digital age, they just get so comfortable. They're just stuck in their comfort zone and their circle of comfort zone kind of thing. And it's just, is it because that we want to get to the end? It's about accomplishing certain things that, sure, beginning, middle, and end. I want to get to the end. But they don't realize that the end might take years, decades. It could take your entire lifetime. It might take you a while before you even get to what your true purpose is all about. So do you see it as like people are just, they're too impatient that they just need to get this right away?
Oh man, I was one of those guys. Of course,
We
I
all are.
wanted
We
it.
were, yeah, for sure.
I wanted it all right away. Now I didn't want a journey. I wanted the destination here, and I really realized that wasn't the right way to live. We're never going to be at the end of the journey until we die, and then who knows what happens. But
Yeah.
what helped me shift that perspective was, what do you want to feel? What do you want to feel in your life? Because it's always going to be shifting and interchanging. And I didn't expect me to own a bunch of tattoo shops or all this other stuff. Like I didn't think this was going to be the journey. But I meditated with this psychic actually when I first got out, and I was in Bali, and there's a bunch of hippie shit all around me, and it was very useful. And she grounded down, what are your top core guiding principles in life? What are your values that you want? And mine were connection, compassion, and inspiration. I want to live in those three values. I want to be able to be a connector and connect with people. I want to live in a compassionate state where I'm doing some good. I'm helping people. And I want to live in inspiration. I'm able to teach what I've learned, because obviously I'm meant to live a crazy life and then help people. And so those three guiding principles is what I want to feel when I'm choosing any new project or new path or relationship, whatever it is. Those are the things that I need to feel, before I do something, rather than this being the thing. The thing is a variable, but what you want to feel, that's the constant that you want in your life. And that helped the whole destination journey thing have a little bit less pressure. And I needed to make sure I was feeling those guiding principles in my life. So those are different for everybody, but often there's going to be something in the aspect of, you want to be connected to people, and you want love, like you want those things. And then what else means something to you,
Yeah.
right? That's what helped in that situation.
So in the early days being in the drug, it was always about money. It was just about what the purchasing of basically what you wanted, right? But nowadays, when you're looking at your businesses and you're looking at trying to expand and try something new and do something different, it's probably the furthest thing from your mind. It's not really about money at this point.
I mean, of course it has to make money. Like, of
Yeah.
course, yeah,
It's a
definitely.
byproduct though right now, isn't
Yeah,
it? Versus
yeah.
then it was the only product.
Exactly. Now it has to make me happy. Like, would I do it for free? Is it something that I enjoy doing, and I feel useful, and I'm really enjoying the impact it's making in people's lives? So actually, now where I'm at is I'm selling one of my that first tattoo shop. I'm getting rid of a bunch of my businesses. I don't want so many brick and mortars anymore, and they're good. It's just I want my attention focused on coaching, speaking, getting my book out there, growing my podcast. Like I like doing this. This is fun. I get to be creative.
Yeah.
I get to connect and meet new people like this. I get to really serve and help people. Like I want to focus on this for a while at this stage in my life. And so it's shifted because I really realized, well, the tattoo shops were great. They got me to this stage, and they helped me learn a lot. about business and life and growth, and they provided financial stability. But now I want to feel these things, and I want it to feel it in this way. So I'm pivoting to mainly do this now. And so that decision was right there, because when I got back to Vancouver, so I moved back here last year after 7 years away. After my accident, healthcare in Vancouver is great. Thank God, that's where our taxes go now. I understand. And so, like, I don't mind paying taxes now, because they caught a bone infection in my leg, and they actually put that right nail down my tibia when I first got back here. So I was like,
Oh, wow.
thank
Okay.
thank you, healthcare. Grateful, right? And when I came back here, I opened a tattoo barber salon in Commercial Drive, and I then opened a luxury car rental business with a few of my friends.
Okay.
And the luxury car rental business, it didn't exactly meet those three values. It was kind of just flashy fun shit. And within a few months, I really realized, I'm like, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. And same with the new project. My business partner and me didn't align. And I realized, I'm like, dang, these aren't what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's hard once you see like what you're supposed to be doing. You really don't feel good when you're out of alignment. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
That's the difficult thing about it. You can just live in the cloud if you want for a while, but then you're drinking too much, or you're masking and numbing. So once I saw these two projects, they weren't really aligned. I exited them, and that's what I'm dealing with right now, because it just wasn't what I really see is my highest vision. And so I had to make those decisions. I had to cut two businesses I built and just get them out.
I mean, that's great that you did that. It makes a lot of sense because you have a bigger path, no? So it's like, but everybody that's where I go to, are we as people, as human beings, are we getting worse or better?
I mean,
Because
as
everybody
a
today is driven by money. It's just driven about
yeah.
lifestyle. It's just driven about what's really being portrayed on social media, and what my life, and what can I attract, and what falseness can I attract, right? So it's like, are we getting better or worse? I'm trying to figure it out.
Man, I don't think social media is doing us much favors because
No,
it's
it's
like,
not, right?
yeah, yeah, it's nice to have the fun, flashy cars and all that, and people see it differently and the status of it. But there's only so much that external validation, you can soak it in. But then when you're really right with yourself and you see it, you're like, this is fake, and it's not really actually that contentment. It's pleasure, but instead of contentment, pleasure is fleeting. But contentment is lasting, and you can stand up on your own 2 feet, and you feel whole, a bit more whole, right? So that was really important process. Was, could I just be happy with externally, internally, and not be factoring in these external validations and these opinions of people that actually don't exactly matter to me. Like there's, people often will just get the nice car to have a nicer car than their neighbors, and so you don't really care what your neighbor thinks. Like, who cares? Or like that kind of thing. So it was worse in the West, I found, because there's so much more competition,
Of course,
and
yeah.
and on social media there's so much competition with people around us. But the main thing is, are you happy when you're alone? When you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night, and you're just you. Like, that's the main thing. Can you be happy there? Is that that's the important part.
Were you being criticized? Because I mean, you're trying to set up a business, you're trying to do everything, but I guess everybody else around you is more about the bottom line, the dollars. And so were you being criticized for walking away from these opportunities, so to speak?
It was hard. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was difficult. Luckily, my friends in the car business, I mean, I took a loss on both of them. So me walking away, I took a loss. I took a time and monetary loss on them. Um, Definitely. So it wasn't easy. It was a difficult decision. This has been happening the last couple months, and it's been the lawyers on one of the end, and then the other end just took a loss, clean break, still friends with those guys. It's all good. But it wasn't easy. It still isn't. And I just know I had to ground back into, I made the right decision, because every time you cut something off and you make a decision, the universe responds to that. It's like, okay, you're planting your flag. You want to do this now. Here's these opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I just know that's what's going to come through. Is I set an intention. I want to be this guy. I want to do these things, and I'm having to say no to other things to say yes to this. And that process, actually, I got to trust it. I just have to trust that's what's going to be the right call, and I do trust it. So I know, okay, I'll make it work.
So when you're talking to people, Aaron, just in today's climate, there's such harsh lines, right? And when I say harsh lines, I mean the haves and the have-nots. There's such this clear definition of, like, we have an image of success versus other people that, And we know this about successful people that are very wealthy or what have you, and they may have an image of success, but they're not internally happy. And it
Oh
seems
yeah.
you found that, right? And you went down your own path, and everybody should go down their own path to do that. But how do you kind of explain that to people that don't have it, that the haves are not necessarily better than you? They might be, but we're not exactly sure. And it's that whole mindset of, like you just said, the neighbor, I have to have it, so then I have to show up the Joneses and I got to do this and I got to compete. And do you really have to? Like, I don't
Mm.
think you need to, right?
We forget that people are just people. Like the pedestal that we see them on, and especially on social media, they're just people, and they're putting out their best self on
Yes.
social media. They're not putting out their daddy issues or their mommy issues. They're not putting out their, deep rooted insecurities. They're not putting out their credit card balance. They're not putting out all these things that you don't factor in, that all of us have our shit. Like all of us have our shit. Everybody does. They have their wounds. They have their toxic patterns. They have whatever. Everybody has some sort of that. And usually, what I've found in dealing with a lot of influencers and influential people, the more perfect someone seems, the bigger the shadow is within them.
Of
And
course.
if they're honest about their shadow, then okay, they're going to be a bit more real. So I try to openly talk about when I'm going through some shit and where I fucked up, like that. That's important. And I think the more people do that, the better. It's more of a strength. But we're afraid to, right? We don't want to be judged. We don't want people to see burst our ego bubble. And I really learned that a lot during the accident, because I was trying to be this Mr. Bali businessman, coach, blah blah blah, and then now I'm handicapped and I need to handle this at my best, because the whole world was, what, not the whole world, but my following was watching. uh, so I know I wanted to handle it in a way that would make me proud. That when I look back on it, that was a big factor for me. Like, make yourself proud in how you handle this difficult situation, and that helped me get through a lot of things where I wasn't sure how to act. And then the other end of it was also be real about it. And when I talk about, man, this sucks, people were like, yeah, like, good, like in the sense that, like, thank you for being real and vulnerable, and they really appreciated that aspect of it, that I wasn't bitching about the situation, but I was handling it well. And I'm like, and this sucks, everybody. They'd be like, okay, you're being real about the situation is helpful. So then other people can feel the ability to be vulnerable as well. And I think that's quite important, especially as men, because we don't often want to showcase our emotions,
No,
especially the negative
never.
ones and the weaknesses.
Yeah.
They don't want that. But I believe if we're able to talk about our emotions skillfully, that, hey, I'm dealing with this right now, it's difficult, but here's my plan to get out of it. I'm actually doing some stuff. This is what I did, this is what I tried, this is what's working. I'm regulating my emotions. I'm getting some therapy, or I'm doing different modalities that are healing in this space. Then people are like, respect, like, well done, like, hey, you actually got some help, well done. People respected me more for getting help than not. They're like, when you can actually ask for help, which was really hard. That was difficult, to actually be vulnerable, like, hey, I need help now. That was a tough pill to swallow, honestly. But the whole process taught me, as I was asking for help, it let people in, and they wanted to be close that way. So that was actually cool.
So it's like really about getting that door open and just letting everybody know that you are not a perfect human, because there's no such
Yeah.
thing as a perfect human. It doesn't exist and never will. And so it's just as long as you get that vulnerability, then you open it up, right? But I'd love for you to share a little bit about how important the pain is in life, because a lot of the times that when we're going through pain, you choose it, pick it, get on the grocery list and decide what pain you want in your life. And they nobody understands when it's happening and the reasons behind it, but the
Mhm.
importance of that pain, there's something more to it, right? You've
Yeah.
seen this, right?
Yeah, pain's a brilliant teacher. It's the best teacher in my life. Pain has been the absolute best teacher. It sucks because it seems like I got to learn the lessons the hard way, but they were the most pivotal moments for me. And what I've learned about dealing with a lot of pain, and same with tattoos. Like, I have most of my body tattooed. I mean, that's not licked on by kittens, and so get these tattoos, parts of it that suck, right?
Yeah.
And I learned from that as well. And it's like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you lean into the pain, and you relax into it and you accept it, and you get curious about it. You shift your relationship to it. It changes, and that's just like tattoos. So you feel the pain, you breathe into it, you just relax as much as you possibly can while you're feeling that. It makes it better than tensing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's way worse if you tense up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was like that with all the mental and emotional pain from my accident. It was like I didn't know how to skillfully deal with pain when I was, getting out of the drug trade or in the drug trade. I didn't have a good relationship to myself. But when I got out and I started really realizing that if we're able to lean into discomfort during the times it really sucks too, when it really hurts, and you're able to lean into it and show up for yourself, um, pain can turn into power. And that's what's amazing is like when you're able to deal with trauma and pain and you deal with it skillfully, you gain a skill, like you gain power, you gain this experience, and then it makes you a wider, deeper, wiser human. And so I remember getting through the accident, coming back to Vancouver, and I just felt this buzz around me. I was like, whoa, like I just leveled up by with this situation. And I was really great. That's why I said, I'm grateful it happened. I
Yeah.
gained something out of this experience really powerfully, but I don't want to do it again. but the whole
I don't need to
thing,
do it again.
no thanks.
No, there's gonna be some. I mean, so why are we so afraid why are we so afraid to change? Why are we almost do everything possible. We go through a whole gambit of emotions or accidents or incidences, and all of a sudden we like do everything to avoid that change. And all we
Yeah.
really got to do is just embrace that change. Right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
not the best thing that you need to do.
Man, we're just pleasure monkeys. We just want good, happy times, and we realize, we don't want we have an aversion to discomfort and pain. But when we're able to shift that and know that that's when your biggest growth is, it's just like going to the gym and you're putting on some heavy weights. It's not easy to lift that heavy weight, but when you're doing that, you're getting stronger. You got to do it. You got to go through that growth phase, which is always uncomfortable, right? I mean, that's how like lobsters molt into a bigger lobster. They actually are like pressuring and growing bigger. And I'm sure that doesn't feel good. They got to grow into a bigger, so we got to be better lobsters. And so the whole thing was around that was I that growth process is so important. And it's been happening literally, like I was talking about, like exiting these businesses. There's ego tied to that.
Of
There's
course.
there's loss. I'm grieving it. I'm like, man, spent a year building these things, and now just no, it's not right for me. It didn't work out how I wanted it to. I gotta grieve that. But I know it was, if I take this well, if I handle this in a way I'll be proud, and I lean into the pain and discomfort, I know I'm going to get something out of it. Like something good's going to happen, and we got to like keep repeating that in our heads. If you handle this painful thing good, you handle it well, you're going to get something out of it. The universe will reward you with wisdom or opportunities and better health, and you'll just do better. And I think in people in working in trades as well, it's like we don't have these conversations where we're like, it's okay to feel your
No, we're
feelings.
trying. We're trying to have these conversations. It's important.
And,
Yeah.
and that's great. Definitely, when I was working in trades, it was just like, have a
No
beer, shut
way.
up.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
Just take the
right?
pain and just shut up and do your job. But I mean,
Exactly.
I really
Exactly.
want to, when you were a kid, did you ever think you'd be a leader? Because now you're a leader and you're basically guiding people down more positive paths. And this show has done the same thing for me. It's just like, this is like you talked earlier about how it's absolute pleasure just to speak to people, meet people, meeting you on the digital scape, and all of a sudden talking to you now. And I've done this with so many other people, but also locally here in Toronto as well. And then you start realizing people start looking up to you and they start considering you a leader. And you're like, I'm not a leader, but I mean, what is it that really makes anybody a leader, and should they be a leader?
Mm. I think that what makes a person into a leader is if they're able to help other people grow. Like, you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need
No.
to be the perfect person to be a leader, but are you an asset to other people's lives and helping them level up, helping them grow? Are you able to bring people together to do a thing, to have a mission, to accomplish a goal, and are you supportive in that? Like a good leader is able to help people rise. And I think that's what the important thing is. And so where I got into the position I am in, it was definitely going through my crazy shit and sharing it and helping people. And I really realized, oh, that's actually really fulfilling. And then building businesses, cool. We have a goal. I'm able to be the one with the direction. We're going to do this thing. Who's coming with me? And that's a big part of us being men, and leaders in general, whether you're a man or a woman. It's you decided where you're going. You've made a decision on what you want in your life. I'm going to do this, and then who's coming with me. And that's a big part of us as men. Like, where are you going and who's coming with you is how we think. So get clear on where you're going first, and that means getting clear on who you are.
Since 1991, Mississauga Hardware Center's MHCI, or Saga Tools as the cool kids call it, has been a trusted name in the construction supply industry. Serving the Greater Toronto Area as a family-founded, owned, and operated company, they take pride in their reputation as one of the most respected construction supply providers in the GTA. At MHCI, they stand out for their commitment to fast and efficient service. Their team of friendly, courteous, and knowledgeable staff is available to assist you with any questions you may have. They understand the importance of product knowledge and strive to provide an unsurpassed level of expertise to their valued customers. They take pride in their ability to purchase large volumes of products directly from manufacturers worldwide. This enables them to pass on substantial savings to their customers. Whether you're embarking on a do-it-yourself project, constructing a multi-million-dollar building, or involved in city infrastructure development, their products and prices remain highly competitive within the industry. Order online at www.mississaugahardware.com, or better yet, go and visit them in person and always check out what's happening on their social at Mississauga Hardware Center with CENTRE. When you were younger, I'm sure that you probably looked at this and thought that if you did these things that you're doing today, you thought of them as being weak. But it's ironic that what you thought as a youth was weak and you became a man became your strength. That weakness opened up to strength. That's exactly what happens, right?
Definitely. I think because we're so influenced by our surroundings, especially as kids in school and, in the area I grew up in and all that, where it's like no one else really talks and things like that. We, as tribal people, we don't want to be different than the tribe. We're scared of that. So we're scared of, being outside of the norm of everybody around us. And when I realized it doesn't matter, and the more you are you and you're good at that, then people come and follow. They want that instead. I got my head tattooed, so it's like I'm a weird guy, right?
Commitment.
Yeah. And I'm just really me. And I think then that it's a good filter for people. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but when people can see, especially, people in trades, and you can see them being articulate and you see them being intelligent, working on themselves, listening to podcasts like these, and you're not what people think you are, that's a big strength. Yeah. And especially if you're softer than people would expect, like that's a huge strength.
I'd love for you to let everybody know, because I know you dive into this when you get on your website, is just like, when do we have to realize that we need a full reset? Like at what point in your life? Because I find it's when you are literally doing the exact same thing morning, noon, and night. I think you need to reevaluate your life and start thinking about a full reset.
Yeah. Especially if you're just not happy with what you're doing. Yeah. Like if you're just like, this isn't sustainable. I'm not feeling fulfilled. And if it's unhealthy, especially if it's just, and especially if you're doing something, whether you're not, in any toxic habits, like say drugs or alcohol, that you definitely need a full reset, because it's really affecting your health mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all that. You're dampening yourself. But say if you're just doing something that isn't aligned to what you want to do, you're like, I could do more. Like I have more talent than just this thing. I could do more than just this thing. And the more that you suppress that and you stay in that same position for years or months, longer than you should, that does affect you. It does affect you, the fire inside of you. And you don't want that fire to go out. You don't want to just like resign to it. You want to live your potential out and at least give it a shot. And I think that's when the full reset comes in, is like, well, at least and at least you gave it, you didn't leave anything on the plate. You at the end of your life, you really went for it. You ate everything you could, you experienced everything you could. You really went for it. And that's what it was like for me, leaving and put in my full reset, leaving Vancouver, leaving the dope game and starting businesses in Bali. And I was like, well, what if I fail? And it was a do or die situation for me. So, hopefully it's not like that for other people, but a rock bottom is a brilliant place to start over. So when you're going through it and it's just so bad you can't continue, it's a massive opportunity. The danger zone is it's golden handcuffs. It's kind of good. I'm getting paid all right, but I'm not happy. Those are the worst ones, because you're going to stay in that for way, way longer. But then you got to look at it in this way of like an opportunity cost. And it's like, well, what's the best case scenario if I really went for what I want to go for? And mine was, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire, hotel owner, chain of hotels globally, Lear jets, all this shit. Like that was the biggest, highest vision. What's the worst case scenario? And it was like, well, I would spend every cent I have. I would totally fail. I'd end up in my parents' basement and I would get a job, I'd do some
Yeah.
labor job to start or whatever. And I was like, well, it's not the worst thing ever. I'll figure it out. Like I could just get a job and get by and then try something else. So I was like, well, when I look at those two things, I'm not going to die if I really go for it. Your worst case scenario is you would figure it out. So go for it. Why not? Look at the big what you have to gain. So when I went for that, I didn't become a international billionaire guy. It didn't happen, but I made a pretty cool life for myself, and I love this life. I'm enjoying what I do, so it was super worth it.
I'd love, Aaron, to talk for you to talk a little bit about relationships, especially in today's day and age of what I call fast food relationships. It's just
Mm,
like gone are the days, I guess, from our older generation, parents' generation, everybody else, where you met one person, maybe two people, whatever. Like nowadays, you meet one person, two people, probably every hour, right? And
yeah,
then you're questioning whether or not the person you're with has any value towards you, or I guess you start putting a price tag on relationships, which is
yeah.
just completely, I'm confused completely when I speak to people in their 20s and I speak to
Mhm.
people in their 30s. I'm completely confused about relationships from their perspective.
Yeah, it's hard. I feel like in our day and age, we have way too much choice. There's way too much available to us way too quickly. Like there's just way too much out there that's dampening our ability to be like to stick it through, to actually be there and get through the hard times because we're like, well, someone else swipe, 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 opportunity everywhere. It's just like that with, Uber Eats or something where
Everything,
there's so
everything.
much,
Yeah.
everything. There's so much choice. So I think we really need to be just wiser in who we choose to be with, like, hire a lot slower and get to know people and not jump into things so fast, but also be appreciative and know what you want. So like knowing what you really want before jumping into stuff, like knowing what you really, just like those guiding principles, knowing what you want in life, those same principles is what you want in a relationship. And, my highest values is like, I need good banter in a relationship. Like I want someone I can joke around with. Like I want to be able to be funny with my partner, that's like so important to have that connection where you're like good friends. And when all the good looks and wild sex when you're in your it fades out when you're way older, can you still be best friends and have a great life together? That's something I really realize now at 35 that I did not think about in my mid 20s. And it really shifted for me being in some relationships that I felt like, what do we talk about when we're not having sex or when we're just like hanging out? It's like, this is kind of boring. We're not having deep conversations, and that was important, right? It's like, can you
Yeah.
go deep? And that depth comes with having aligned values and aligned interests, and like actually we align in so many of these areas that we would just hang out. We would be friends whether we were platonic or in a relationship. Like, will we actually be cool? And that's something that really landed for me. And that was important. Values, like values, and for me, of course, banter. Can we just
I
mess
agree.
around? You
I
know?
yeah, I've always said communication. I'm just like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
yeah.
not care about anything else but communication. It just makes so much sense because when everything's good, it's great, whatever. But when everything's bad, then you
Mhm.
need to communicate. But I find the common thread when I start speaking to younger people and they're dating, they'll always go into a relationship and it doesn't last. And then all of a sudden
Yeah,
they'll get into another relationship, but it doesn't last. And then they keep on going to another relationship, but it doesn't last. And I keep on looking at them going, do you think maybe it's not the person, but you? Maybe there's something wrong with you because it seems like everybody's going into these relationships and they're the problem and not the person. And I'm like, well, start looking at a mirror and start paying attention to maybe it might be you and your values and how you see things. It might not be these people. You might be just dismissing people that are actually really important in your life and you just threw them away as if it was nothing. That's today's relationship, which is
mhm.
unfortunate because now you're just like, you don't have the greatest idea of a connection with somebody. You're
Yeah,
missing
yeah,
that. Like, why not look at that instead of just trying to get a piece? You know what I
yeah.
mean? For intimacy, right? So that's why I just want to get your thoughts on that. And it kind of got me towards mindset because I know you talk a lot about mindset. And it's just like, how do we get people to focus on their visions? Like, how do they propel and see the future and go, I have this possibility in me to do this, to accomplish this. We've all
Yeah.
seen this through history where we've seen such human beings kind of achieve certain things. And once someone does it, several others accomplish it. but it's not
Yeah.
until someone does it that they do. So how do we stay focused on our mindset and achieve these visions that are constantly rattling in our head?
Yeah, yeah,
You know
it's
what I
so
mean?
important, right? I think firstly, we got to know if we really want it, and sometimes that's difficult if not, and that comes down to again, what do you feel when you think about it? Like, do you feel, are we in touch with our feelings? And manifestation, actually thinking and building and bringing something to you, is based off your emotions, your feeling. Do you really want this? Do you feel it fully? Okay, I want this thing. And then the next step is, okay, are you going to be focused enough to get it? So it's like, practical, and you need to be a bit metaphysical here. Like, will you bring this into your field by having the right energy, or the right mindset, the right interaction with the world around you? But then are you going to be focused and practical and organized? And so much of that is people just have trouble, um, cutting out the noise and distractions. And that's it's so much more prevalent in today's world, that we have so much, instant messaging, all these social media channels. There's always some big event or sporting event, or there's always some crazy thing on the news. There's so much out there. And the people that I find really are successful, anytime I've ever built a project, I've built a business, I had to be laser focused on it. And I have to say no to so many other things. And I have to say yes to just this thing. And I have to really make it simple for me to succeed. I got ADD like really bad, and I need to focus on one thing.
Yeah.
And I need to do that thing. Otherwise, I'm not going to get it done. I'm going to do a bunch of things, kind of. And I think a lot of people have these issues. And so it'd be, firstly, pick a direction. Like, do you really want this? Are you going to be into this when things are hard? Are you going to get out of bed when it's snowing outside? Are you going to go do this thing? Are you going to love it? Okay, good. Is it worth it for you? Is it going to align to your values, your mission? Can you see yourself doing this later on? Is it going to feel good for you? Are you going to provide for your family or your people around you? Are you going to enjoy your place in the tribe when you have this thing? Is the status going to be worth it for you? It is a factor. Is this going to make you happy, fulfilling? Okay, great. Next, what do you need to know, and who do you need to know? So I get real practical here. This is a process I lead people through to actually launch a project. So what do you need to know? What knowledge are you missing to be that person, to have that project, to be that person? Like, what do you need to know? List it all out. List all the things that you're missing knowledge wise. Great. Because later we're going to come back to that and find the resources for that. Then who do you need to know? No one's self-made. We all have connections, ideas. We got a little, piece of gold from some podcast, whatever it is. Like, who do you need to know that's going to give you this information, or give you the connection, or get you to that place? Is it a mentor? Is it a coach? Is it, the link at this, opportunity? Like, who do you need? And you list it all out. So now we're just making lists and getting real practical. I need these people. Maybe it's just you need a supportive friend, or you need to find your wife. Great. List it. Great. Okay. And then we start getting real practical. Then what do you need to know to get that wife? Well, you probably need maybe emotional intelligence. Maybe it's some of these things, like listing these things out clearly. And then we get into deadlines and deliverables. So now, can you time block the time to study what you need to know, and maybe time block finding the people who you need to know, or develop and nurture the connections of the people you need to know? So then you're just being practical of what you're putting into your life. So then it's not Thursday night, I spent 4 hours watching the hockey game and then some movie or something. It's like, well, no, look at that time you just wasted, where you could have been nurturing that connection or listening to this thing.
Yep.
So we're getting way more clear on saying no to what you shouldn't be saying, shouldn't be doing, saying yes to things that align to your vision. And then step by step. So every week, allocate time to get your stuff done, if you're going on a side hustle, you're in trades right now, and then you're like, well, I got weekends. It's like, okay, can you plan out this time and time block it to do the things that align to the vision, and then start following your own plan? The more you can get organized to support yourself, the more you gain that power of being self-sufficient. And then you're like, wow, I'm a leader for myself. And then you can lead for others.
Now, is that applicable to, doesn't matter how small or how big of a task? Because I find that most people
100%.
will only apply that to large tasks, large life-changing goals, when technically speaking, you could probably just do it for the simplest things in the world that's going on in your life.
You want to build an IKEA shelf.
Yes,
Like,
exactly. Tackle it the same way.
Same exact
I
thing.
agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Same exact thing.
I'd love to know, Aren, what do you look for in tattoo artists? What's your
Attitude.
first go-to attitude? Just attitude.
Yeah. For like employees, or you mean?
I guess for an artist, for yourself, like, but also for an employee. Like, I mean, like, what are you looking for when you're looking for an artist?
Of course, skill. Like, of course, like, are they skilled? Have they put? You can tell when someone's put a lot of energy into their craft and they're skilled. They really are honing in on their level of skill. This would be like with any employees or just anybody in life. Are they good at what they do? And usually, if they're really good at what they do, they have these skills around it, like a good attitude, because they've practiced, they put energy into it. They've honed in on it. They've studied their craft. They've carved out their own niche. They don't copy other people. They really are doing something specific and unique, and they're good at doing them specifically and uniquely. That's important. But of course, attitude, and that's with employees, or we're getting tattooed from someone, because if you're getting tattooed from someone with a shitty attitude, that energy is going to be in you. Like, they're going to be putting that into your skin. So having someone that aligns to your values and that has good energy about them, that's important. It's not just about the money for them. They love what they do. That's important. You want that passion and artistry and professionalism. That's important. Like, those things really matter across the board, whether I'm employing them or I want a tattoo from them.
I was just curious myself. But I'd love for you to just, we're getting close to the end here, but I just love for you to share a little bit of, I guess the way I want to phrase this is health wise, and you can incorporate mental health into this as well. And what is it that the majority of people are doing wrong, and what are they doing right when it comes to health?
I think consistency is
Yeah.
the number one thing. And I can just speak for myself in my own health journey. I need structure. Like, I did 75 hard, and I got super healthy from that. I loved it. Do you know about the 75 hard
Yep. Yep.
program?
Yeah. Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. I did phase one. I'm waiting between phase one and phase two right now. And I'm in that, you have to take that mandatory 30 days off. And I'm like, man, I miss being on. I ate cinnamon buns
Doing
last
it on
night.
purpose. He's doing it on purpose, man. No, no, I
Yeah,
know.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's the hard part. That consistency and structure is so important. And then having like somebody to do it with, like community. And what works for me is fitness community. I always work better when I was in the kickboxing gym and I had my camaraderie around me, or I have a personal trainer. I love hanging out with him. I get to go see him. Then we'll hang out on the weekends and make steaks or something. Like, I need connection in my life, and I need fitness to be aligned to those values. And so I want to be doing it with people. I'm not good unsupervised. I'm going to be like writing content. I'm going to be like, messing around when I'm at the gym. I need to be supervised. I have ADD. I just need that. Right. And so for me, it's definitely that consistency, structure. I have a goal to set, or I'm doing a program like that. That helps me be accountable for myself. And so I think that's really important. And then what people don't do well is, yeah, of course, not being consistent, and also eating in ways that's not good for their body style. There's so many fitness trends, and diet trends and this and that. And I think if it works for your body, and you really have to be in tune with how you feel when you eat things. And I know I just feel better when I'm eating a high protein diet and veggies. I don't do well if I'm eating sugars and flours and stuff like that. It affects my body, and I need to be in tune, because so many of us will just eat something and forget why we don't feel good.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, I feel a bit heavy. I'll just drink a coffee. Like, there's this thing that we get into busy loop, especially when I was working in trades, because you're just busy and you're like, well, $5 pizza, and you just eat what's available and quick and easy, and then just deal with not feeling good after. So what I really learned was eating and nourishing yourself in a way to perform. So I'm fueling my body in a way to feel good, rather than just satiating myself or eating out of convenience. It's like, am I going to feel good after I do this? And so, like, your what for, your why. I'm going to eat this meal to feel nourished. That's going to change what you're going to eat. It's going to change how you think about things. So having a bit more intention in what we do for our fitness and health practice, that was like, oh, that was a game changer for me. That helped me actually. And that's like in anything in life. If we're able to bring some conscious awareness into what we do, we're intentional about what we're doing, and we're not just running on autopilot and just doing a bunch of things because we're busy. That was a game changer. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? Slow down for a second. Like, what's your point here, buddy? Like, what's your what for? Like, well, I want to be fit. I want to be jacked.
No,
Like,
there's
what
more
for?
than that. There's a lot more than that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I,
that
I,
was a big,
I
big
love
one.
I love the idea that you brought up the community thing, because that's exactly what's happening with this show, is that you're getting complete strangers text messaging each other and talking, and they're sharing, they're opening it up, which is great. It's fantastic. And I'm hearing that. And the latest that I'm hearing from these people is that if one person is having a bad day and they just kind of text the other person was like, listen, wherever you are, give me 20 pound push-ups right now. Give me 20 push-ups right
Huh.
now. Just do it. It's just change your mindset. Just change it. Yeah, you're having a shit moment. You're having a shit day. You're having a shit opportunity, whatever it is, right? And you're texting someone to kind of help you out and give you some words of wisdom. And I love that they're saying, drop and give me 20 push
Love
ups.
it. Love it.
And I'm like, it's only going to benefit you. That's all it
Yeah.
is. So it's like, I think it's just like that. Yeah, you're right. You got to stay consistent. You got to just move forward. You got to realize that little gains are big gains in the end. Like you got to realize all these little things, right? And it kind of makes me like, I'm getting to my last few that I want to ask you is that for you, what is it like your purpose? What does it mean to you versus what a lot of people think about their purpose in life? Because everybody's always chasing that shit. You never, when we're kids, our purpose was to just not get as many cuts and bruises as possible and possibly survive whatever craziness that we came up with. But as we get older, we start questioning our purpose. And then I think it's like we miss the opportunity of being a childlike person anymore. And I think that if people started paying attention to what they did that gave them pleasure as children, without hurting other individuals, you know, without a joke aside attached to it, but I think people just lose the idea of what purpose means to them.
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
Of course, and it gets thrown around so much, and anybody can have purpose. Like if you're a stay-at-home mom, your purpose is to be a great mom. Like
Yes,
it's what's your
very
mission?
much. Yes.
What are you doing? If you're an amazing, carpenter, and your purpose is to build people homes that they're going to build their like have their families in. Like your purpose is to hold space for families to grow. Like what's your higher vision? And it's not every nail that you hammer in is going to feel different, right? What are you doing it for? And so mine was give, connect, inspire. Of course, I want to be doing what I'm doing to help other people, but also in a way that is like it's making a bigger impact than what I was doing before. And I just want to be useful. So my purpose is just to be someone who's very useful, that I'm able to be making this life worth it. That's it. I don't want to leave anything on the plate. I want to be I want to live a big, full life. And that's like the purpose is to really live this life, like really do it, do all the experiences I can do and help as many people as I can help. So then when I'm old, I'm at the end of the road there and I'm like, you did it. Like you really did it. You did all you could,
Yeah, yeah.
it's no regrets.
And it's not an overnight thing either, right? Like it took a while for you to actually figure that out, and it's going to take you much longer to actually achieve it.
Yeah, of
Two
course.
different timelines, right? I want to ask you about being away from Vancouver for so long, and I don't want to get too political, but by all means, you can if you want. I mean, coming back to Vancouver and see what the Vancouver's become
Man,
with the amount of drugs and like all kinds of
dude,
shit that's
it's
going on.
crazy.
It's
It's
bad.
crazy.
It's really,
It's
really
wild.
bad. Yeah.
I was building. I'll tell you a short story around that. I was building Karma our Lotus House here, and I was doing the electrical, so we're saving us some money. So I'm wiring in all the lights, 18-hour days, 6 days in a row, just trying to save us cash and get us going. And I'm still on painkillers from my accident. I have metal in most of my body, so it's interesting to have another relationship with opiates again. But now I'm at a place in my life they're very controlled. I'm doing them just to working with my body while I'm on ladders, and it's painful. So okay. I'm back at that stage. And it's been interesting another thing, come back to Vancouver and have painkillers back in the mix. Very interesting to come back, but seeing it from a completely different cycle, I'm like, wow, I have a healthy relationship with this now. It's okay. But at that time, I was at Shoppers Drug Mart. I'm getting my painkillers and I'm in Cole Harbor, nice area where my apartment was. And this drug addict was getting into a fight with a security guard. And he was just like, you've assaulted me. You've assaulted me. And the guy was stealing. And the security guard's like, dude, you were stealing. Just leave.
Hmm.
And the guy's like, call the cops. Call the cops. He's like, if I call the cops, you were stealing. Just leave. He's like, you assaulted me. Call the cops. He's freaking out. Right. And I'm at the end of my day. I just worked like the whole day with my hands. I'm dirty. I'm exhausted. I'm angry. Like I'm just tired. I
Yeah, yeah.
no bandwidth for this, right? And then the manager comes. She's a sweet, kind of grandma, old white lady, and she's like, "Sir, can you please be quiet? Like, please, can you calm down?" He's like, "Shut up, you bitch!" Like something like that, and it set me off. I was like, "No, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no!" And I turned and I said, "You need to shut the fuck up, you fucking crackhead, and get the fuck out of here." And I snapped. And I'm supposed to be a life coach, dude. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not supposed to be saying this shit, right? Like I snapped, and it wasn't good. He's like, "You think I'm a crackhead?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what you are. Get the fuck out of here." And I'm like, I'm so angry. The whole store, all the Shoppers Drug Mart's looking at this happening right now. Like it's a kind of moment. And he's like, you know what I think you are? I'm like, what? I'm like in it. And he's like, And I'm like, that's what the fuck I thought. Get out of here. And I'm such a bad, it's not skillful, right? Not skillful moment. And as I'm leaving, he turns at me and he goes, you know what you are? You're a trust fund kid off your daddy's money. And I have my head tattooed, bro. Like, what? That's how I know you're high. But also, it struck me for a moment, and I'm like, damn, this guy didn't have good parents. Like, clearly, what that statement said to me gave me so much information about him. And it's like, you just think because I somewhat have my shit together that I had a cushy life with with a silver spoon in my mouth, which
Yeah.
couldn't be from the case. But I understood that so many of these drug addicts and so many of these people that are here have had deeply traumatized lives, deeply traumatized. They've had horrible circumstances they've grown up in, and the system isn't taking care of people the way it should. And it's also too soft in a lot of ways. There's a lot of violent crimes happening. And I didn't think I'd be so Clint Eastwood about this when I got back to Vancouver, and I'm like, get off my lawn. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want people to get a fucking job and pay taxes. I was so like angry about it because I'm working with multiple jobs and I work hard. I don't think we should be giving free rides for people who just want to sit around and do drugs all day. But on the other end of it, they've had horrible lives. Like, they've had really tough times. So I was asking one of my friends, I donate to his charity, Kids Play Foundation. He's a police officer. He's a high ranking cop. I never thought I'd be friends with cops, and be working with him, helping with
Yeah.
his charity. And I was like, Cal, his name's Cal DeSange. I'm like, Cal, I did something bad. Like, I yelled at a drug addict. I called him a crackhead in front of a lot of people. Like, it wasn't really a good thing that I did. He's like, yeah, well, you're trying to protect this lady. Fair enough. I'm like, what should I do? He's like, well, you can't help these guys. They're too far gone. But you can help the kids. So focus on helping prevent the problem for it happening further. Help these children, be a role model, bring community together for these kids, be a positive impact. Tell them, be an entrepreneur, show them the way. That's what you can do. And I was like, okay, so what we can do with all this crazy situation is we just need to be better humans in the sense of leading and bringing people together. And I always say this now, and I'm like, we just need normal, good people getting together and having community and saying no to this being okay. Like, I don't want to walk down the street and seeing people smoke heroin. Like, that's not okay. Like,
No.
in front of kids and all this, like, it's not okay for me. We need enough community together to like state that that's not okay. And I think we're just too soft as a society, and that we're just giving too many rights to people that are just weighing down the system and not enough support. So it's like, get clean. Here's how you can get clean. Here's the resources for that. Maybe we be a little bit smarter with our spending, and maybe Justin Trudeau isn't taking Lear jets for $250,000 everywhere we go. Just like, maybe he can not be him.
I'm
And
not
so
disagreeing with you, Aaron. I'm not disagreeing with you. Trust me, I'm not.
that's how you get shadow banned.
Yeah, no, I love the point that you brought up about getting
Yeah.
to the kids first, right, before they become
Yeah.
this, right? It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
but you're right. There are a lot of factors that are at play. We don't know exactly what's going on with their lives, what hand they've been dealt. We don't know exactly what's going on. But now you've got a government that's just basically assisting them to get worse, is basically
Well,
what's
exactly.
happening,
This
which is
whole
a
business.
shame.
There used to be a mental hospital that completely got cut and the funding from it, and then all those people ended up on the streets on Hastings. And like, that's how this thing kind of, from what I understand, I don't know everything, right? But we cut massive support to a society that we created. Like, a lot of them are indigenous too, and they didn't get they got a really bad end of the stick on this one. And there's not support to help them be empowered. We're just keeping the cycle going, and it's just like, cool, legalize all drugs. And you're like, well, I don't know if that's actually like
It's not a good
that's not.
solution.
I don't think that's the right call here. I don't think people should have access to meth. Like, I
No,
just don't think that's like the thing. Like,
doesn't
weed,
make sense.
okay, but like, people just to be able to do meth on the street in front of kids, it's just, what have we done? Like, that part made me sick. So that made me want to be a community member to help. Like, as soon as I got back, I was like, I gotta do something about this. And I was actually getting my friends to vote, and we were like, let's go vote. Let's try to make a change. Like, actually, because we can't just. That was the other thing why I called one of my mentors, Cal, when that Shoppers Drug Mart situation happened. I was like, I can't just bitch about the problem and not do anything. I
Yeah.
can't just, driving down the street and be like, get out of my way, you fucking crackhead. Like, I can't do that. I need to be somebody who's just do something, and then you can bitch about the problem. But you can't just be angry about the situation and you're not doing anything to help. That was what kind of gears turned in my
It
head.
makes a lot of sense, Aaron. Like, yeah, totally. And it's good that you're doing that. But there is a bigger problem at hand here. So yeah, no, I didn't want to get too much into it because we're running out of time here, and I appreciate it. So I want to get to the last 10 questions here of construction. Aren Bahia is here. Ink, Pray, Love. You can get him on his website, which is RAENBAHIA.com. And from the website, you can get to all everywhere. IG, particularly ink_pray_love, and then his YouTube channel as well. You ready for these questions?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
What everyday sound brings you joy?
What everyday sound brings me joy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I would say the sound that brings me joy. This is a tough one. Probably going to be when I inhale and I can just feel an inhale, just like if I take a conscious breath and I can take a second to myself. Silence.
What's your favorite beverage?
At the moment, eggnog. It's not good.
Eggnog, really?
I love eggnog.
What's your least favorite tool? It's not necessarily construction related, just least favorite tool.
Oh man. Well, what I remember I didn't like was the when I did plumbing, the snake, where I'd have to like unclog a toilet, that big
The snake
snake
coming back. The snake coming
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Wondering what it's coming back with.
Yeah.
What turns you on creatively?
Uh, I would say when I'm doing client sessions and I'm helping people like shift a business or launch a business, and we're on the roll and we have that like reciprocal creative energy, and they're like, oh, that's a good idea. And then we build on it. So that exciting creative energy that you're onto something like that lights me up.
What word or concept do you find overused these days?
Ooh,
What are all the cool kids saying that you're kind
fucking inclusivity.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Come on,
That's
it's
a
so
good one.
much.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's overused.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh,
Could be in any language. I'm sure that you probably pick some up in Bali.
I mean, because I was there's lots of good ones in Bali, but I hung out with so many Aussies and so many British people while I was out there, and then they were just like, this cunt over here, this
Yep.
cunt. And it's just like, it's a good word.
I agree. What is your favorite vehicle in the entire world? Anything, any mode of transportation?
Ooh, I think, oh, that's difficult. Any mode of transportation.
We've had people say
Uh,
space shuttle, so it could be anything.
yeah, dang. I would say the favorite mode of transportation would, I don't know, I've always wanted to be in like I like a Bentley Continental GT, like a luxury sports vehicle.
What do you miss from your childhood?
Mm. The the pizza days at school. Those are always fun.
Oh yeah, I remember those. That was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
big
yeah,
event. It
yeah.
was such a massive event, huh?
Yeah, those are
That
big
that
deal.
and Christmas, like it was just that big. It was huge. I know.
Yeah,
If
Christmas was good.
if you could master a skill outside of your own expertise, what would it be?
Mm. I would I would say it would probably be like stock trading or something like that.
Get into the game. Last
Yeah.
question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
Mm, this is going to be way better than what you expected.
Nice. I like that. Aren, thanks so much for being on the show and taking the time. Really appreciate having the conversation with you, man. Honestly, and everybody that's curious, they should reach out to you and just. I know on your website you got just an introductory form that you kind of fill out to kind of get
Yeah.
an idea of who you are, right? And or the people that are looking into getting into it. But I definitely encourage everybody to come and check you out.
Thank you. Also, Instagram, if they want to just message me
Yeah,
easier, I
DMs and
respond
stuff.
to
Yeah, it's
all my
cool.
DMs. I respond to all of them. Happy
No,
to connect.
totally. I know that was great. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Don't go anywhere just yet. Okay, Angeline, we're out of here.